Orcas have never.
Stop scrolling immediately, because if you thought the 2,000-foot drop in fall gave you vertigo, Virginia Gardner is about to give you permanent thalassophobia in a movie that essentially takes the claustrophobic terror of the shallows and combines it with the real-world anxiety of the Orca uprising news cycle, creating what might be the most visceral aquatic horror experience of 2026. We are looking at the first official trailer for Killer Whale, a film that finally moves us away from the exhausted sharksploitation genre and introduces a villain that is smarter, faster, and infinitely more vindictive than any great white could ever hope to be, and the premise is as terrifying as it is simple. After a life-shattering tragedy, Maddie, played by the scream queen of survival thrillers Virginia Gardner, and her best friend Trish, played by Mel Jarnson, retreat to a secluded private lagoon halfway across the world for what is supposed to be a healing vacation. But what they don't realize is that they have just entered the hunting ground of Keto, a rogue orca whose aggression isn't born from hunger, but from a calculated burning desire for vengeance after a brutal life in captivity. This distinction is crucial, because unlike a shark, which is a biological eating machine, an orca has culture, memory, and the capacity for grudges, turning this from a standard creature feature into a psychological slasher film, where the killer just happens to weigh 6 tons. The trailer opens with that deceptive tranquility, crystal clear water, the sun beating down, and the false security of a paradise resort, before shattering it with a haunting, slowed-down remix of Culture Club's Do You Really Want to Hurt Me? A musical choice that is both ironic and deeply unsettling, given the film's subtext about human cruelty towards animals. Director Joanne Brechen seems to be leaning heavily into the nature fights back theme, capitalizing on the recent real-world events where orcas have been sinking yachts off the coast of Gibraltar, making this film feel less like fiction and more like a terrifying prophecy. We see Gardner and Jarnson stranded on a flimsy inflatable pizza slice raft, a prop that feels absurdly fragile against the sheer size of the threat beneath them, creating a visual contrast that heightens the vulnerability of the characters. They aren't on a sturdy boat, they are essentially floating on a dinner plate for an apex predator. The cinematography in the trailer utilizes the split-level shot to perfection, showing the panic above the surface and the silent massive shadow gliding effortlessly below, a technique that Spielberg mastered in Jaws but is used here to emphasize the intelligence of the whale, who isn't just attacking blindly, but is stalking, testing, and toying with its prey. We have to talk about Virginia Gardner's casting here because after her performance in Fall, she has proven she can carry a movie where the antagonist is the environment itself. She brings a gritty physical desperation to the role that sells the stakes, and in the brief snippets of dialogue we hear the realization that this isn't a wild animal acting on instinct, but a damaged psyche lashing out, with lines suggesting the whale thinks it is still fighting its captors. This adds a layer of tragic horror to the film. We are terrified of Seto, yet we understand the monster is of our own making, a narrative thread that draws parallels to Blackfish, but filters it through the lens of a survival thriller. The film also seems to be avoiding the CGI overload that plagues modern creature features, with the trailer teasing practical water effects and what looks like a blend of animatronics and VFX to give Seto a physical weight in the water, ensuring that when the attacks happen, they feel impactful and bone-crunching rather than weightless and digital. The dynamic between Maddie and Trish is also central to the tension. This isn't just about survival, it's about friendship under fire, and the trailer hints at the emotional toll of the situation, as they are forced to make impossible choices to keep each other alive, while trapped in a lagoon that acts as a natural arena. The visuals of the lagoon are breathtakingly claustrophobic, surrounded by high rock walls that offer no escape, turning the beautiful open water into a prison cell, mirroring the captivity that drove the antagonist insane. There is a specific shot in the trailer where the dorsal fin cuts the water with surgical precision, not rushing, just closing the distance. That induces a primal fear response because it reminds us that in the ocean, we are not at the top of the food chain, and unlike a shark that might bite and leave, an orca plays with its food. This movie is poised to do for killer whales what Crawl did for alligators, or The Grey did for wolves, respecting the animal's power while terrified us with its lethality. The release date is set for January 2026, which is traditionally a dumping ground for horror. But given the viral potential of the killer whale concept and Gardner's rising star power, this could be the breakout hit that sets the tone for the year. It's a bold move to make the villain an animal that is usually seen as a sea panda, or the star of family-friendly movies like Free Willy, but that subversion is exactly why this trailer is grabbing so much attention. It corrupts a childhood icon and reveals the predator underneath. If Killer Whale delivers on the promise of its trailer, we are looking at a film that blends the ethical complexity of Rise of the Planet of the Apes with the raw aquatic survival tension of open water, forcing the audience to ask the uncomfortable question: when nature decides to settle the score, do we really deserve to survive? So get your floaties ready, and maybe cancel that beach trip, because after watching this, you'll never look at a splash in the water the same way again.